I have been a social worker and family support person here in the Alzheimer's Disease Center at the University of Kentucky since 1988. I work with, on average, 400 to 500 families a year. And in that role, often I have to work with both diagnosed persons and their families as they face issues of transportation, and particularly the issue of whether that person who has Alzheimer's or a related dementia should still be driving. And that is always, for both the person and the family, life-changing. Always. I think part of that has to do with our American culture and how very tied each one of us are to that business of independent transportation. And it is so much a part of our culture that we see it as an inalienable right to drive. And the time comes for many of us when that's not going to be true anymore. So I'll tell a story that's a composite of lots of our folks. We perhaps have seen a person for a few years now who has a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease, has been very high functioning, has some good family support, is doing well, certainly having trouble with memory, sometimes some trouble with time orientation, some minor trouble with judgment, executive decision making, but doing all right. They come in for another evaluation. And always in our evaluations, we see not only the diagnosed person, but the family member who's the primary caregiver too. We need the history from the primary caregiver as well as from the person. So we're beginning to hear from that person's family, and sometimes from the person, him or herself, but more often from the family. Oh gosh, we're really getting worried about driving. We're seeing nicks and dings, and she can't tell us what happened, and she thinks someone else has been driving the car and caused these problems. And so we hear those reports from families. Each time that folks come into our clinic, they have mental status testing done. It is the physician who tells the person that they can no longer drive and why they can't drive. Now, that doesn't always mean that that person understands that, and certainly they don't agree with it, but it is the physician who tells them that. And the physician tells them that in front of their family member, so that they both hear it and know that that's where we are in the course of the disease at this point. And the physician usually couches it within that context, saying that it's part of the progression of the disease. We've been monitoring for it. You've done well at this so far, but now we're at the point it's not safe for you and it's not safe for other people. So they're told as gently as it's possible to tell. And then from that point, I have opportunity to work with family to try to help them think about how to put in place substitute transportation options. Sometimes I have families where there are a number of family members and they are available basically on call to help people with transportation as it's needed. Sometimes, still in 2015, I may be working with a couple where the husband has dementia and has been the driver, and the wife has never driven. And so she is almost as adamantly opposed to his driving privileges being pulled as he is. So we work based on that individual family situation to try to put in place options that may be viable. Some of the folks with whom we work have financial resources to be able to pay a driver, or to be able to, right here in town, to use a taxi. In other parts of Kentucky, taxis aren't a good option, but right here in town they could be. Certainly we have other resources. IT and the Bluegrass is a very good resource that I try to connect families with when that's appropriate. So we try to work through and offer those options so that from the beginning we, along with the family, are able to assure that person to the greatest extent possible that they're not going to be homebound, that they are still going to be able to get out and go places and engage in the activities that require transportation to get them there. Getting their hair done, going to the doctor, going shopping, going to play golf with their buddies, going to a card club, going out for lunch, any of those kinds of things.